So we're going to take a quick look at my my gill net that I made. I used fly line backing, actually braided nylon. Took 2 rolls, 50 meters each, so that's 100 meters or 100 yards of braided nylon fly line backing, 25-pound test, and this net isn't very big, but I used it all up. There's barely any scrap, and then I also have an extra 15 feet of cordage here that are, you'll see, serves as my top line on this net, and 100 yards didn't go very far. I'm going to get this out of this bag. By the way, this only weighs about just a little over 2 ounces, not even 2.5 ounces. Just want to show you one more thing here before I get into this. This is the only tool that I used in making this net. There's lots of tools that you can build. If you want to get fancy, you can make net making based on my research as complicated or as simple as you want it, and I went simple, and this came in handy. This is a cheap knife. I think it didn't even cost me $15. I don't know, it doesn't have a brand name marked on it. I got this in a town where there's a lot of commercial fishing industry. I'd imagine these are probably pretty hot sellers there. It's a marlin spike knife. This worked well for when I wanted to set my knots up. I could actually hold the strings and move the knots around to make sure that they were even. I mean, I did a far from perfect job of that, but this helped a lot. If I screwed up, I could at least get it back in line, or for undoing knots as well. Just have it on a piece of paracord around my neck. Yeah, it was really handy. And just as a side note, for $15, I'm going to have to find out the brand name of this knife and see if I can let you know that. But look at that, it's got steel liners inside there. I mean, this is a slip joint knife, but steel liners. The blade is killer sharp, and if you're working around water and rope, these serrations are deadly. It's got this tool. I don't know how to use that, but I guess if you were a mariner you would. And then this spike is absolutely rock solid. I've had this thing for a couple of years, and that spring hasn't faded in the least bit. This is a pretty actually useful tool. I've used it when I was gold panning and stuff for getting things out of crevices. I have an actual Camillus marlin spike knife that cost quite a bit more, and I would say that I almost prefer this one to it. So that's just a side note. We'll get back to the net here now. Okay, here's the finished product with my instant shelter, aka umbrella, in the background there. It's full-on rain gear day here today. Has been for about a week now. But anyways, like I said, I used a full 100 yards of this braided nylon fly line backing to make this net, and it's about just under 6 feet by almost 3 feet. So it's not huge, and it took 8 hours, a good solid 8 hours of knot tying. I mean, granted, it's my first time at doing this, so I was picking up speed towards the end. This is designed for catching the type of fish that I would probably see in this river here, at least at this time of year, which would be rainbow trout, dolly varden, that kind of thing. I guesstimated on the size based on the size of fish that I've pulled out of here, and 3 fingers was, I figured, a safe bet for it to get its head in there, and then if it had a big body, get its gills caught. Okay, I had to duck back under my instant shelter here. It's a little ugly out there. Don't want to ruin my camera. But a few more things I wanted to mention about a net like this. I think I'm going to start carrying this as part of my survival gear. Not a mini kit, but just something that I have on me when I'm out in the woods. And the reason is, this takes a long time to make, and it requires a lot of cordage. And if you think you're going to just sit around in a survival situation and make a nice big net and catch yourself some salmon, you're kidding yourself. But I would say that this has a lot of potential for getting you some food. If you put it out in the river, for one thing, it requires next to no energy. It can sit out there all night while you're sleeping and maintaining your fire, and it's still working for you. And you can also use it to catch other things, not just fish. If you had ducks that were hanging out at a certain spot all the time on the shore, you could set this thing up. You could actually put it attached to the ground with sticks, pegs, and you could herd them into it. Or if there's a grouse back in the bush that was drumming, a male, I'd leave him alone and I'd let him bring the females to you and set this net up. You could do it like a trapper would with coyotes. You build fence and put brush around so that you direct the female grouse as they come to that male into a certain area, and they'd hit this net. And I've actually worked with conservation officers on wildlife projects with sharp-tailed grouse, and they use nets just like this. The males fly into their dancing ground, but the females walk in. So it worked. It was effective. We'd catch quite a few of them and then ban them and let them go. But in a survival situation, of course, you'd be getting food, and that male would be working for you. Well, here's a quick look at a place that I think would be decent for putting this gill net out. You need to get some food. We'll just ignore the fact that I'm right next to the bridge there. But here's a spot where the river kind of back eddies. There's a bit of a whirlpool over here. The net would sit nicely in there. That's where food will accumulate for those fish. And that back eddy flows right past me here, up into this pool. And those rainbows will make their way up in there for sure. Even with a small net like what I have, I think we'd see some success in a 24-hour period here.